There's a reason it's not working the way they said it would. A reason why you've said the affirmations, held the visions, listened to the meditations, and yet the money still feels like a stranger that doesn't knock on your door. You've whispered, "Abundance is mine," under your breath, even while checking your bank app with a heartbeat of quiet fear. And that doesn't make you wrong. It makes you honest. It makes you aware. Because deep inside, you know, this isn't about numbers. It's about identity. Neville Goddard taught that you don't earn wealth, you assume it. But assumption isn't a thought. It's a being. And you can't be what your subconscious refuses to recognize as you. That's where the struggle hides. Not in your effort, but in your inner contradiction. You say, "I am wealthy," but your nervous system still reacts to money with the imprint of a child who heard adults fight about bills. You light a candle for prosperity, but part of you still thinks that wanting more is selfish or risky or unrealistic, and that part is running the show from beneath your words. Because wealth isn't missing, it's misidentified. Most people don't lack money. They've unknowingly become the embodiment of lack. They wake up wearing scarcity like skin, tensing before checking accounts, shrinking desires to avoid disappointment, judging others who have more as if wealth were a betrayal. But what if that's not who you are? What if it's just who you've been trained to believe you must be? This is where Bruce Lipton's work in epigenetics illuminates a sacred truth. Your biology is not your destiny. Your genes aren't fixed. Your life is not pre-written. Your cells are listening to your beliefs. Your nervous system is adapting to your emotional tone. Your reality is aligning to your self-perception. And if you are carrying the blueprint of not enough, even your highest visions will short-circuit before becoming form. The truth is, the subconscious doesn't care what you want. It responds to who you are being, beneath the surface. It listens not to your wishes, but to your frequency. And if your internal environment is vibrating with unworthiness, fear, or guilt about having more, no amount of conscious desire will override the deeper signal. So let me say it clearly. You're not failing to manifest because you're doing it wrong. You're just trying to install abundance on a system still programmed by lack. And like trying to run new software on an old operating system, it keeps crashing. Because you can't download expansion when "I'm not enough" is still the script running in the background. But that's what changes today. Not by force, not by fantasy, but by remembering who you truly are, beneath the scarcity scripts. You are not here to chase money. You are here to embody wealth. And wealth is not a number. It's a state of being. It's a way of seeing. It's an identity you step into, not because you've earned it, but because you've remembered it was always yours. Now breathe. Let that sink into your chest. This isn't the beginning of another method. This is the end of pretending you're someone who lacks. Technique 1. Cancel the currency of scarcity. It starts in the smallest phrases, not in the major decisions, not in the bold affirmations, but in the quiet, automatic things you say and feel about money without even noticing. "I can't afford that. That's too expensive. I wish, but not now." These are not just statements. They are energetic declarations. Each one subtly teaches your body to speak the language of limitation. Each one signals the universe, "I am not the one who has." And slowly, without malice, you start embodying lack as if it were your identity. But money is not your enemy. It is not a measure of your value or a test of your worthiness. Money is a messenger. It responds to the tone of your inner conversation. When you speak to it with fear, it hides. When you treat it like a prize to be earned, it runs. But when you see it as part of your natural environment, as air, as flow, as rhythm, it begins to circulate. Not because you deserve it more, but because you are no longer resisting it with your assumptions. Scarcity isn't just an idea, it's a frequency. It lives in your breath when you hold it before looking at a receipt. It lives in your posture when you contract before someone mentions success. It lives in the background tone of your decisions, when you settle, shrink, or sacrifice from fear. That's why no amount of positive thinking can override the vibrational echo of not enough. It must be retranslated, redefined, and released at the root. Begin with the way you speak. Change the code. Say, "That's not aligned for me right now," instead of "I can't afford it." Say, "Money flows when I'm in alignment," instead of "I need more money." Speak with neutrality. Speak with quiet power. Speak as someone who isn't begging the universe, but gently opening to receive. Because you're not here to impress the universe. You're here to resonate with it. Every time you use the words of scarcity, you tune your inner radio to that channel. And no matter how many affirmations you say afterward, the signal you've already sent out keeps looping back. But when you shift your vocabulary, even subtly, you change the frequency. And when you change the frequency, you become someone wealth can find. Remember this: you don't attract abundance by shouting, "I want it." You align with abundance by no longer speaking like someone who lives without it. You speak from the future. You speak with the calm of someone who knows. Because the truth is, the wealth you seek is not far. It's simply waiting for you to stop speaking its opposite. Technique 2. Live like the future. You pays the rent. Most people think they're visualizing wealth, but what they're really doing is projecting it into a distant future, one that never arrives. They close their eyes, see the mansion, the car, the peace, and then open their eyes and go back to behaving like someone who's still waiting, still proving, still calculating every step based on a past full of worry, debt, and inherited fear. And that gap, the gap between the vision and the behavior, is where the manifestation collapses. Neville Goddard never taught us to chase. He taught us to embody. Living in the end is not imagining yourself one day having more. It's choosing to exist now as the version of you who already has it. Not pretending, not forcing, but emotionally relocating yourself into the identity of someone who already crossed the bridge, who already received, who already became. The problem is, we make decisions from our current bank account instead of our future consciousness. We look at the numbers, feel the fear, and make choices that validate that fear. This is not responsibility. It's spiritual amnesia. Because when you do that, you betray the self you're becoming in favor of the self you're trying to outgrow. And every time you do, the frequency of the past gets stronger. It becomes your compass, your currency, your logic. But logic does not create miracles. Identity does. So ask yourself this: what would the version of you who already feels wealthy do today? What would they say yes to? What would they no longer tolerate? How would they move in their body, respond to that email, open that envelope? Not because of what they have, but because of who they are. This is the shift. Not in doing more, but in doing differently. Not from pressure, but from presence. It could be one choice. Just one. A decision, a conversation, a gesture made not from fear of what might happen, but from certainty of what's already becoming real. And when you make that one choice, something opens. It's subtle at first, but it begins to rewrite the script. The body notices. The mind adjusts. The universe responds. Because the bridge to your desire does not appear when you try harder. It appears when you begin walking like someone who already holds the key. Wealth is not a future event. It's a current decision, a way of seeing, a way of responding. And once you begin to live like the future you, the future comes to live in you. Before we move into the next technique, pause for a moment and ask yourself, what would shift if your decisions no longer echoed your past, but confirmed your wealth? If that question stirred something inside you, check the pinned comment. There's something there waiting for the version of you that no longer argues with abundance. Technique 3. Interrupt the poverty performance. It's subtle, it's often unconscious, but many of us have been trained to perform lack, like a silent play we don't even know we're acting in. We downplay our desires so we don't seem greedy. We shrug off abundance so we don't make others uncomfortable. We speak about money as if it's always out of reach, so we can appear relatable, responsible, or grounded. But all of it is performance. A script inherited from people who also thought they had to struggle to be good. You've been taught that being humble means having less. That being spiritual means detaching from prosperity. That being realistic means expecting limitation. But none of that is your truth, it's just old programming. And every time you act from it, even subtly, you keep the frequency alive. Because there is a cost to signaling poverty, even as a joke, even as small talk, even as self-protection. It tells the universe, this is still my identity. It tells your body, this is still who we need to be to feel safe. And it tells your future, not yet. I'm not ready to be more. But you are. You are ready to stop pretending that lack makes you worthy. You are ready to stop proving that you can survive without abundance. You are ready to stop rehearsing struggle just to feel accepted. Because that isn't authenticity. It's vibrational confusion. You are not here to be the most responsible in the room. You are here to be the most aligned. And sometimes alignment looks like expansion. Sometimes alignment looks like ease. And yes, sometimes alignment looks like having more than enough. So for just a moment, imagine going one day, just one, without performing poverty, without using lack as conversation, without minimizing your desires, without echoing old beliefs just to be understood. What would that sound like? What would that feel like in your chest? It would feel like liberation, because the truth is you don't need to prove that you deserve wealth. You only need to stop pretending that you don't. You don't need to become someone new. You need to stop acting like someone you're not, because every time you stop the performance, the real you, the abundant you, has space to speak. And that voice, that presence, that is who money recognizes. That is who the universe already believes in. Technique 4. Desensitize the fear of having money. There's a reason why, just when the money starts to come, something in you tenses. You may not say it aloud. You may not even consciously realize it. But deep within, in the language of your nervous system, abundance still feels unsafe. Not because it is, but because it's unfamiliar. Because it threatens the version of you that once had to survive without it. You see, the mind can imagine wealth, but the body remembers the cost of being visible, the fear of being judged, the worry of losing it all once it arrives. And so, even as you declare, "I want more," a quiet part of you pulls back, not from lack of desire, but from an old association that money brings pressure, separation, or danger. Science echoes this with clarity. Dopamine, the chemical of reward, doesn't only respond to pleasure, it also tracks potential threat. And when the gap between what you want and what you feel safe receiving is too large, the body goes into avoidance. You say you want wealth, but if your body believes it leads to stress, betrayal, or rejection, it will sabotage the path. This is not failure. This is protection. But you are not here to protect your old limits. You are here to become the version of yourself who thrives beyond them. And that begins not by forcing wealth into your life, but by making your body feel safe to hold it. Not through logic, but through sensation, through breath, through the gentle repetition of a new truth. It's safe to have more than enough. Let that phrase settle into your spine, into your stomach, into your heartbeat. Say it not as a chant, but as a remembering. Because your nervous system isn't your enemy, it's your ally, and it can be re-educated. It can learn to associate money with peace, not pressure, with support, not danger, with ease, not threat. If you treat money like a tiger, your body will always run, even when a check arrives. But if you show your body that it is safe to receive, safe to expand, safe to live without contraction, then money no longer feels like a disruption. It feels like a companion. You were not born to fear wealth, you were taught to, and now you are unlearning it, gently, deeply, permanently, until having more becomes as natural as breathing. And safety is no longer a reason to stay small, but the foundation for rising. Technique 5. Speak the language of receiving. Most people talk about money as if it were a verdict, a judgment of who they are, a test they haven't yet passed. They say things like, "I'm trying to attract abundance," but the vibration underneath those words often whispers something else. It says, "I'm still waiting. I'm still separate from it. It's not mine yet." And that's the language the subconscious listens to. Not your hopes, not your intentions, but your tone, your consistency, your inner belief wrapped in emotion. The truth is, you don't receive because you've earned it. You receive because you've become it. And the becoming is not loud. It's not performative. It's not desperate. It's quiet, certain, open. Because the ones who truly receive are not shouting to be seen. They are making space to be met. They are speaking to life in a way that says, "I know who I am and I know what belongs to me." Your subconscious doesn't need convincing. It needs rhythm. It needs feeling. It needs messages it can absorb like breath. That's why so much manifestation fails. It's delivered through logic when what creates is always frequency. And frequency is carried by repetition infused with emotion, by statements that feel like home, not slogans to recite. So what if, instead of saying, "I want," you began to speak as a space? I'm a place where wealth loves to land. I am a frequency that abundance recognizes. Receiving is who I am, not what I do. Let these not be phrases of desire, but declarations of identity. Because when your words shift, your field shifts. And when your field shifts, reality has no choice but to respond. Money is not drawn to noise. It's drawn to coherence, to the stillness of a presence that already believes. The more you speak from that place, not in volume but in clarity, the more you become a magnet, not a chaser, a center, not a seeker. And here's the quiet truth. Receiving isn't a performance. It's a permission, one that you grant yourself, not through proving, but through allowing, through choosing words that nourish the soil of your energy field, through letting your voice match the version of you who already lives in abundance. You don't need to scream to be heard. You only need to speak like someone who has already been answered, because you have. And now it's simply a matter of tuning in to the response. Technique 6. Recode the financial family blueprint. Some of your blocks didn't begin with you. They were passed down like heirlooms. Unspoken, emotional, deeply embedded. The stories you inherited about money, struggle, sacrifice, and worth. Maybe no one ever said it out loud, but the air in your childhood home carried it. The way your parents spoke about bills, the tightness in their bodies when the rent was due, the silence after someone mentioned success, and without even realizing it, you absorbed those patterns not just as ideas, but as truth. And so here you are, trying to rise, while dragging the weight of an identity that still believes struggle is noble, that poverty is safe, that wealth is selfish, that prosperity disconnects you from the people you love. And even though you want more, a part of you fears what it would mean to actually have it, not because money itself is bad, but because it might sever the emotional bond you've always felt through lack. This is the loyalty that lives beneath the surface, not to people but to patterns, to energetic agreements you didn't know you made, to the belief that you must keep playing small in order to stay connected, to belong, to be accepted, to not be alone in your rising. But belonging that costs your expansion is not belonging. It's entanglement. And love that requires you to stay poor is not love. It's memory. It's unprocessed pain. It's identity confusion. You do not betray your family by growing. You honor them by becoming what they didn't know was possible. You don't abandon your roots by reaching higher. You extend them. You carry the prayer forward. You transform it. And maybe no one ever told you this, but you have permission. Permission to surpass what your family thought was enough. Permission to earn, to expand, to rise without guilt. Permission to write a new story. One where abundance is not a rupture, but a reconciliation. Speak it, feel it, write it. A letter of gratitude to your lineage. Not to repeat their struggle, but to bless it and release it. Let them know, I see your pain. I see your sacrifice. And I choose to turn it into something else. Because you can love them without living their limits. You can remember them without recreating their fears. You can honor their path while choosing a different one. You are the threshold. You are the one who says, the story changes here. And through your courage to receive more, generations are healed. Not just forward, but backward. You become the abundance they never had words for, the miracle they couldn't name, the freedom they silently hoped for when they said, maybe one day, things will be different. That day is now. And you are the one. Technique 7. Emotional wealth rehearsal. You've probably visualized. You've probably written lists, made mood boards, imagined outcomes. But if you're only rehearsing wealth with your logic and not your emotion, you're only activating the surface of your power. Because manifestation doesn't respond to what you see in your mind. It responds to what you embody in your being. The subconscious doesn't speak in sentences. It speaks in sensations. And when those sensations become real in your nervous system, your entire reality begins to reorient around them. That's the secret most people miss. It's not the thought of wealth that shifts your frequency. It's the feeling of already being in it. And not once, not occasionally, but rhythmically, ritually, emotionally rehearsed until your body no longer doubts it. This is not pretending. It's not faking. It's aligning. It's remembering how to feel from the version of you that already lives what you've been asking for. The one who wakes up and doesn't flinch at the price. The one who tips generously without checking their account. The one who moves through life with the quiet confidence of someone who knows abundance is their natural state. And you don't need to script a perfect fantasy. All you need is a single scene, real or imagined, where wealth feels normal, not excessive, not dramatic, just natural. Maybe it's sipping your coffee slowly on a quiet morning with no rush to work. Maybe it's walking into a store and knowing you can choose without stress. Maybe it's the way your body softens when you open your banking app and feel peace, not panic. Let that scene live inside you. Let it breathe. Add a song, a scent, a gesture, anything that roots it in the body, not just the mind. Because repetition alone is not enough. Emotion is the glue. Emotion is the signal. Emotion is the invitation you send to the quantum field saying, "This is who I am now. Match me." Your brain doesn't know the difference between memory and imagination. It only knows the frequency. So each time you return to that feeling of ease, of expansion, of having more than enough, you are carving a new neural path, a new energetic groove, a new identity. And the longer you stay in that rehearsal, the more the outside world begins to conform, not because you forced it, but because you became it. Not through pressure, but through presence. Not through effort, but through frequency. Because your future is not something you chase, it's something you remember. And then repeat, until it becomes so familiar, your body no longer hesitates. It simply lives it, as if it has always been so. Because in truth, it has. Bonus technique. Audit your financial identity statements. There are sentences you speak without thinking, phrases so familiar they slip past your awareness like background noise. I'm not good with money. It always disappears. I just don't know how to save. And each of these phrases isn't just language, it's identity. It's a frequency. It's a mirror reflecting what your subconscious has accepted as fact. These statements may sound casual, harmless, or even humorous. But beneath their surface, they carry the code of your self-concept. And your self-concept is the axis around which your entire financial reality turns. You could have the best strategy, the clearest vision, the most potent desire, but if your inner voice still echoes those micro-statements of lack, your reality will orbit around that frequency. That's why change doesn't begin with your income. It begins with your vocabulary, the words you use when you're not trying to be spiritual, the comments you make when the bill arrives, the jokes you share when money feels tight. All of it matters, because your subconscious is always listening, and it's loyal, not to what you hope, but to what you repeatedly say. And those repeated phrases become your inner truth. They shape your expectations. They define your limits. They tell life who you believe you are, and life responds accordingly, not out of judgment, but out of resonance. But here's what's sacred. Your language can be rewritten. Your identity can be renewed, not by force, but by noticing, by choosing new words that carry the tone of the future you. Instead of, "I'm not good with money," say, "I'm learning to manage wealth with clarity." Instead of, "It always disappears," say, "Money moves through my life with wisdom and return." Speak from the self you're becoming, not the one you've outgrown. Let your words become your energetic credit score, not based on debt or income, but on alignment, on truth, on vibrational self-worth. You are not a victim of your past statements. You are the author of a new narrative, one phrase at a time, one sentence that feels like home, one quiet upgrade that shifts your entire field. Because every word you speak about money either opens the channel or narrows it. And when you begin to speak like someone who honors their abundance, the abundance begins to respond like it's finally been heard. Secret insight. You don't need to attract money. You need to stop repelling it. There's a silence you carry when you're desperate, a tension beneath your affirmations, a reach behind your vision boards. And it's that silent grasp, the one hidden beneath your conscious intention, that repels the very abundance you're calling in. Not because you don't want it enough, but because you're chasing it with the energy of absence. And absence only creates more distance. Most of what blocks money isn't visible. It's vibrational. It's in the way your body clenches when the rent is due. It's in the way you scroll past someone's success and feel a quiet sting of comparison. It's in the way you sit in meditation, but deep down, you're watching the clock, hoping for a sign, proof, validation that your manifestation is working. And in that grasp, that grip, that invisible push, abundance feels your tension and stays away. Because abundance responds to stillness, not urgency. Your nervous system is more honest than your mouth. It tells the universe what you actually believe, not through your words, but through your vibration. And when you send out the signal of desperation, your field contracts. And when your field contracts, wealth, like any natural energy, bypasses the closed door. But this isn't cause for shame. It's an invitation to soften, because you don't need to chase wealth. You need to become a space where wealth feels welcome, where money feels like it's entering a home, not an interrogation, where the energy of having replaces the illusion of lack. This is where mirror neurons come into play. You've heard that people reflect your state, but so do opportunities. So does money. When you relax into trust, your frequency becomes magnetic. Your environment reflects your coherence, and your reality responds not because you demanded it, but because you embodied it. Create stillness. Let your wealth ritual be soft, sensory, felt. Maybe it's the way you breathe before making a financial decision. Maybe it's the scent you associate with abundance. Maybe it's the playlist that reminds your nervous system it's safe to receive. These are not tricks. They're signals. And the universe doesn't ignore a clear signal. Desperation is loud. Receiving is quiet. And like bees drawn to still flowers, money moves toward those who stop swatting at it with fear. You don't need to attract more. You need to release what says, "It's not yet mine." And when that release happens, not as performance but as truth, what you've been seeking starts seeking you. Without force, without delay, without confusion, just coherence, just return, just presence. Fatal error, mistaking manifestation for micromanagement. It's subtle. It often disguises itself as discipline, focus, or spiritual diligence. But beneath it lies an energy of control, an attempt to orchestrate every detail of how, when, and through whom the money must arrive. And in doing so, you slip out of the frequency of faith and into the prison of micromanagement. You say you trust the universe, but you're constantly checking, analyzing, adjusting, as if abundance were a child who might run off if you take your eyes away. But here's the paradox. The more you try to control the path, the more you signal that you don't believe it's already unfolding. Micromanagement is not strategy. It's scarcity dressed in productivity. It's the echo of what if it doesn't work, disguised as effort. It tells the universe, I don't trust the process unless I can monitor it. And that mistrust becomes the very resistance that slows everything down. Neville Goddard called this the bridge of incidents, a sacred unfolding of events that appear ordinary but are divinely aligned. Your only task is to assume the state, the inner identity of already having. The rest arranges itself through what he called natural movement. And that movement doesn't need your interference. It needs your alignment. When you micromanage, you're trying to do the universe's job. But the universe is not a machine you must configure. It's a mirror. And mirrors don't need instructions. They need clarity. If you're sending mixed signals, one part of you affirming abundance, another part doubting every delay, the mirror reflects that confusion. That's why release is not surrender. It's participation. It's your way of saying, I know who I am. And because I know, I don't need to chase. I simply live from the place where the having is already true. This doesn't mean you take no action. It means your actions are inspired, not anxious. Aligned, not reactive. Trusting, not calculating. Try this. When the urge to check, tweak, or doubt arises, pause. Write it down. Name the fear. Then write the opposite. The feeling you would have if everything were already done. Let that feeling rise. Not to force, but to soften. Not to fix, but to remember. Because you are not here to build the entire river. You are here to become the current. To flow with a frequency that assumes the destination already exists. And when you become the flow, you realize you were never meant to manage every detail. You were meant to embody the truth so completely that the details arrange themselves around your certainty. Effortlessly, naturally, divinely. Conclusion. Wealth was never missing, just blocked by who you thought you had to be. Wealth was never absent, only blocked by an identity built from fear, lack, and inherited beliefs. Neville Goddard taught that the real shift is not in money, but in self-image. And as Bruce Lipton showed, your biology follows belief. Your reality mirrors identity. You don't need to create wealth. You need to stop embodying the version of you that repels it. The scarcity wasn't in your bank account. It was in your assumptions. Now, as you return to the truth of who you are, abundance no longer needs an invitation. It simply arrives, because you've finally made space for it. If today's message spoke to something quiet inside you, Check the pinned comment. What's waiting there was placed with you in mind.